Okay, picture this. A 2-foot tall frog, sometimes 10-foot tongue, sometimes 30-foot tongue, powered by a godlike mosquito, vomiting bug swarms, casting toad plagues, healing wounds with muds and leeches, and doing open mic comedy on the side. This is not a fever dream. This is a fully playable character in Pathfinder 2e. Welcome to Ctrl+Alt+Build, where Pathfinder character creations meet calculated chaos. Here's how it works. I roll randomly for the core of a character, ancestry, background, class, deity, and archetype. Then I take that chaos, theory, and themecraft, finishing it off by building a fully playable, thematically rich character you'd hopefully actually want to bring to the table. Every episode is a new concept. Sometimes it's janky, sometimes it's genius, but it's always a fun, functional build. So if you're like me and enjoy characters that feel unique but fill a strong party role, then you've come to the right place. My name is Nicholas, the virtual GM, showcasing Pathfinder 2e Codex entry number 1, Lick, Laugh, Loot. Let's build the legend. With this being the very first build, I was excited to see what the dice would give me, and I was not disappointed. When building, there are a few character creation points that we roll to build the foundation of the character. As mentioned earlier, these are ancestry, background, class, deity, archetype. Before we move forward, a quick note. Many backgrounds and archetypes and deities are tied to Daglarian, Paizo's core setting for Pathfinder 2e. If you're a player in a game where your GM is running a homebrew setting, check with them to see if there are any comparable groups that you can substitute the various options for. If they don't already have one, in most cases, I would imagine they would be thrilled at the opportunity to expand on their setting more. Let's take a look at what we have for this build. For Ancestry, we rolled up a Tripkee. Tripkee are small, nimble frogfolk with low light vision, climbing chops, and the strength of a wet noodle. But hey, they make up for it with jungle-born agility and a word from the wise. We rolled Firebrand Follower for our background, which is someone who was rescued by a group of firebrands. Think Robin Hood, but with more drama and glitter. And since that moment, they have inspired the character to become one themselves, or at least assist them when they can. This instantly provided a very polarizing moment when mentally putting this character together, because the firebrands and the very nature of Tripkee are as close as fit as oil and water. At this point, though, we just got to put the thematics of it all on the back burner until the rest of the pieces are put together. Firebrand Follower grants us an attribute boost that is either strength or charisma, plus one free boost of our choosing, providing training in either athletics or performance, along with the Firebrand lore skill. We also get the assurance skill feat in the chosen skill we picked, but before we make those decisions, let's see what else the dice have in store. Now, if you're a follower of the ABCs of character creation, you might think class would be next, but instead, we're going to determine our deity. The reason for this is that the deity can be either super impactful mechanically, in the case of like a cleric or a champion, or it can just be general flavor, something that can help shape and guide some of our choices or personality traits. For this build, we have the goddess Gwendolyn, aka Lady of the Fangwood. Now, she's a pretty obscure deity in the lore, and is mainly focused around preserving primal areas and the preservation of her forest. From a flavor standpoint, this is a great pairing with the Tripkee, and a very natural fit. Alright, now for the big one, class. For class, we are a witch. Witches in Pathfinder aren't your classic bloom-riding wart-nosed hags, unless you want them to be. They're magical practitioners who channel power through a mysterious bond with a patron, some strange and otherworldly entity that offers knowledge at a cost. Or a wizard studies and a sorcerer is born with magic, a witch is chosen or maybe cursed. It's complicated. What sets the witch apart is their familiar, a magical companion that acts as their spellbook, conduit, and creepy little sidekick all in one. Witches choose a legend from our patron, gaining a unique hex and an additional spell, and they have access to cantrips and spells from their tradition, usually occult, but it can vary based on the patron. They're also masters of hexes, minor magical effects that can debilitate, enchant, or just be plain weird. Mechanically, they're prepared casters like clerics or wizards, but their spell list and features can get real niche and flavorful depending on their choices. In short, witches are 1 part scholar, 1 part folk magician, and 1 part cosmic wildcard. You don't always know what a witch is about, but you will remember them. Witch's key attribute is intelligence, which is used for their spellcasting. They have an okay hit point pool of 6+ con. Outside of that, proficiencies for the witch, they're pretty spotty. Perception, saving throws, with the exception of will, non-spell attacks, and AC will all be pretty lackluster throughout the build, with most actually never getting beyond expert in skill level. But before we start looking and actually making our first deliberate choices for this build, we need to determine if we are using an archetype or not. For our exercise, we first roll to see if we're using an archetype, and if so, which one. For this build, we are not using an archetype, so we get to fully embrace our witchy nature. That's our chaotic cauldron of random rolls. Let's stir this stew into a build. Starting with our ancestry Tripkee, as mentioned before, we get attribute boost to dexterity, wisdom, and one of our choosing. I think the obvious choice here is to go with intelligence for our free boost, as it's the single most important attribute for our class. We also get a number of additional languages beyond common and Tripkee equal to our intelligence modifier, so feel free to pick choices that fit the campaign you're going to be in. We're also going to select our heritage here, which will be Snap Tongue Tripkee. This gives our tongue its utility by allowing us to perform simple interaction actions, such as opening unlocked doors, though it can't be something that requires fingers to use, and we can't hold items. The more important feature for us, and the reason we're going with this, is that we can use our tongue to deliver spells with a range of touch. For now, it's purely thematic, but that'll change down the road. For our ancestry feat, let's take Hunter's Defense, which once per hour, we can use when an animal, beast, elemental, fae, fungus, or plant-traded creature attacks us, and we can see the attacker. This lets us change out our AC for our nature DC instead. This is going to give us a little boost to our defense and can help negate some things like off guard. For our background, the Firebrand Follower, we have to choose either strength or charisma along with one of our choice. For the free pick, again, gonna go with intelligence. For the either or, we could go with strength to negate the flaw from our ancestry, but instead, I'm gonna go with charisma. I want to build around the Tripkee, and negating their attribute flaw when it's not key to the class seems kind of counter playing into the theme, so we're going to add a little charisma to our Froggy Witch. For skill training, since we have the natural climber feat, which gives us a +2 boost to climbing checks already, instead of athletics, I'm going to go with performance here. This pairs nicely with the charisma selection earlier. This makes our assurance skill feat performance by default, and basically means that we can choose to have a 10+ proficiency bonus instead of actually rolling performance. While this isn't critical to the build by any means, it's a solid option to help shore up our charisma performance thing we have going on now. As a witch, though, we get to select our patron. While there are a number of good patron choices, I wanted to pick something that fits the theme of our character, which is, so far at this point, a frog from a forest who believes in a forest protecting deity and is also a groupie for firebrands. This led me to the Mosquito Witch. Now, we don't know why or how we interacted with and got the blessing of the Mosquito Witch. That's what backstories are for. But this blessing provides us with a couple of things. First, it gives us the primal spell list, which matches the theme we have going so far. This is one of those examples of a patron changing the spell list from the traditional occult to something else. We also gain our first lesson, which is Lesson of the Unbridled Hive. This gives us the Buzzing Bites hex cantrip, and our familiar learns the Pest Form spell. Now, not to get too deep into the weeds of the witch class itself, but essentially, hex cantrips are additional cantrips we get that fall under focus spells, not primal spells, though they don't use focus points. They are, for now anyway, limited to 1 casting per turn. Our familiar acts as our spellbook and maintains the knowledge of spells that our patron is granting us availability to, and pest form is just another one of those added to the list. Now that we have the core identity of this build in place, let's go over our level 1 selections. For attribute boosts, we're going to pick Intelligence, Constitution, Dexterity, and Wisdom. Again, Intelligence is our key attribute, which we want as high as possible. Constitution is going to give us a bit of a bump in HP and Fortitude saves. Dexterity helps out with our AC and Reflex saves, with Wisdom giving us a bump in Perception and Will saves. After everything is added up, this gives us a starting spot of Strength at -1, Dex +2, Con +1, Int +4, Wisdom +2, and Charisma +1. With an Intelligence of +4, we get a total of 7 additional skills we can be trained in on top of the Firebrand lore, nature, and performance. Now, there is some wiggle room here, but we're going to lean pretty heavily into Intelligence and Dexterity skills at this point in time. We're going to grab Arcana, Acrobatics, Crafting, Occultism, Society, Stealth, and Survival. That makes for a total of 9 trained skills and 1 trained lore skill at level 1. Now that is a ton of level versatility. As a witch, we get an initial hex spell. There are only 2 options at this point, and they're both based around the familiar, so we need to start thinking about how important the familiar is to our witch. Some witches play very heavily into their familiar, others use it mostly just as their spellbook, and that's the route we're going to go for this build. Our Tripkee, by nature of having been saved and coming from a very humble setting, aren't going to view themselves as the main character in a story. I see them seeing themselves almost like that pet NPC that the party picked up along the way, and just wanting to be super helpful to whoever they're traveling with. And having a powerful familiar on the field doesn't fit who they are. So we're going to go with Patron's Puppet here, which allows our patron to take control of the familiar on our turn. As a prepared caster, your familiar is going to know more spells than you can prepare. At this level, your familiar knows 10 cantrips and 5 first level spells, plus the pest form from the initial patron lesson, and the hex cantrip buzzing bites. You have a lot of freedom here to make choices you want, and I won't go through and pick every spell or cantrip at each level, but I will highlight some suggestions I think will really help define who this witch is and their role in the party. For cantrips, I'm going to be taking Detect Magic, Healing Plaster, and Timber. Detect Magic is a staple for any spellcaster and will have plenty of uses throughout the life of a campaign. It also is something that can be easily rotated in and out during daily prep based on your current needs. Healing Plaster allows us to use dirt or mud in place of healer's tools for medicine checks to treat wounds. Now, you might be thinking, hold up, we did not take medicine as a skill. Why do we care about this? And you'll find out next level. Lastly, Timber gives you some multi-target combat damage and can also cause creatures to be dazzled until the end of their next turn on a critical fail. Damage, possible conditions, applications on multiple creatures that fits into our forest theme. Perfecto. Now for spells, there are 2 spells which I think are kind of vital for this build here at first level. The first is Mystic Armor, which gives you a boost to your AC until your next daily preparations. As a spellcaster, and one that doesn't have great innate defenses, this is a must-have for survivability. The second one is what I would consider this character's signature spell, 500 Toads. 500 Toads allows you to conjure up hundreds of toads in a 15-foot burst at a range of 30 feet. These hordes of toads trigger any trap in an area that can be triggered by weight, movement, or position of a medium creature. The area becomes difficult terrain, and any toads destroyed by traps are magically reconstructed to keep the entire area filled with toads for the duration, which is 1 round. I gotta say, I love this spell. 1, it's as thematic as it gets. The hilariousness of a frog casting a spell and a plague of toads just appearing is great. Outside of the thematics though, it's a fantastic support spell. It can be used for either its trapping activated capabilities or its function of creating non-dispersible difficult terrain, While this spell can't be heightened, so it will lose some of its flair over time, it will never become unusable. Difficult terrain will always be handy, and there will never be a time where your party members are upset that you saved them from walking into a trapped hallway in the dungeon because you flooded it with toads first. Lastly, we're going to touch on starting equipment. There's a ton of wiggle room here, so pick your favorites. Personally, I'm going to go with Predictable Silver Piece. It's a trick coin that can land on a particular side when you need it to. A Witch class kit, a wrist launcher, call out to our firebrand follower background, and maybe a bottle or two of spear frog poison. You have 15 gold pieces starting out, and it's always good to have some left over. At level 2, we grab our first class feat, Basic Lesson of Life. Our familiar learns Spirit Link, but the real MVP here is Life Boost, an auto-heightening hex that says, "No worries, I got you, boo," and throws HP at us or buddy every round for 4 rounds. It's the frog's version of an emotional support hug. For our class feat, we finally make our earlier weird decision make sense. We take Natural Medicine, which lets us use nature instead of medicine for treat wounds. Why? Well, because this frog heals people the same way she learned to dance, by rubbing dirt on it in the woods. We also heal better in the wilderness with nature in comparison to medicine, so there's that. Level 3. Our nature skill gets bumped to expert, which means our frog now knows how to read all the tea leaves. We also get our first general feat, and we're leaning full Cryptid Grandma with root magic. During daily prep, we slap together some herbs, mud, maybe a clump of hair, and give a party member a lucky charm that helps them shrug off spells or spooky hauntings. It's like aromatherapy, but cursed. And we get second rank spells now. What are we picking? Frog Tongue and Vomit Swarm, obviously. Frog Tongue turns your tongue into a 30-foot melee meat rope. You lash out for 2d8 bludgeoning, maybe grab someone and yank them off balance. Sure, it can get sliced off, but don't worry, your tongue regrows. For Vomit Swarm, you unleash a cone of biting insects, 2d8 piercing, plus a chance to make enemies sickened. Flavorful, thematic, gross. Just how we like it. Both give us damage and condition dealing support tools, because, nothing says I care about the team like throwing up a cloud of biting insects. And, that wraps up level 3. We're now healing with leaves, barfing bugs, and slapping people with our tongue. And we haven't even gotten weird yet. At level 4, we snag a delightfully grim class feat, Portents of the Harrowspeck. Whenever a creature within 30 feet drops to 0 HP, and their body's still intact, we roll a d12. Each result is tied to a different damage type, and until the end of our next turn, the next time that type is used to hit an enemy, they get weakness to it equal to our level. Translation, we read into the future in guts. It's very on brand. For our skill feat, we pick up Quick Repair, letting us fix broken gear in 1 minute instead of 10. So finally, our crafting skill from level 1 gets a chance to shine. Now we can stitch armor back together while someone's still bleeding in it. Both of these continue our always helpful, always a little strange support package. Level 5, baby. Alright, so let's start skill upgrades. Crafting gets boosted to expert because we're no longer just the weird frog who tries to help. Now we're the weird frog who fixes your stuff. Quickly. Then it's time for our 4 free attribute boosts. We're going to bump Dex, Con, Wisdom, and give Intelligence a little nudge. We also unlock our next Ancestry feat, and this is the moment we've been building towards since level 1. Long Tongue. Lets us deliver touch spells 5 feet further than normal. Combined this with Snap Tongue, we've got a glorious, fully operational 10-foot tongue. Dreams do come true. Speaking of spells, 3rd rank pick. Our choice, Croak Voice. This makes someone's vocal cords swell up until they sound like a frog. The results vary by save, but worst case, nothing. Best case, double 2d10 mental damage. They can't cast properly, and they're stuck croaking like an enchanted bullfrog. Last but not least, we're going to get a patron gift, Magical Fortitude here, bumping our Fortitude saves to Expert, because even our Constitution is now weirdly helpful. With a long tongue, a bag of gut-based prophecies, and a spell that turns people into croaking wrecks, we're not just a healer anymore, we're an experience. Alright, Let's take a quick breather and see where we're at after 5 levels of Froggy Hexcraft. We've got a strange but super handy support witch on our hands. Healing Plaster and Life Boost are keeping our team patched up. And thanks to natural medicine, we're using nature checks instead of medicine, meaning we're healing with bugs and muds instead of bandages and stethoscopes. That's very on theme. We've also got our creepy, cool utility spells like Frog Tongue and Vomit Swarm, giving us both battlefield control and a little splash of damage with conditions. Root Magic and Importance of the Harrowspec are feeding into that weird mystic theme where we're handing out pouches of hair and pulling omens out of fallen enemies. We've also got a 10-foot tongue now, so that's a thing. We're already that strange little forest frog that people go, wait, that thing just healed me? And with expert nature and crafting, we're keeping allies up, fixing gear, and hexing enemies, all while croaking ominously in the background. At level 6, we get our next class feat, Greater Lesson of Decay. This grants us the Mycological Malady Hex spell and gives our familiar the Insect Form spell. While Insect Form is a fun spell and totally on theme with our whole creepy, crawly aesthetics thing we got going on, the real gem here is Mycological Malady. This hex infects a target with fast-growing fungal spores, causing them to sprout various mushrooms and molds, depending on their save. Mechanically, this means enfeebled, potential for slowed and stupefied 2. It's gross, it's beautiful, For our skill feat, we're going to take magical crafting. Lets us start making our own magical items up to 2nd level, which fits right into our vibe. Mossy talismans, jars of glowing bug juice, and enchanted totems made of bones and twine. You name it. Level 7 brings some big utility and power spikes. First, we're going to grab the general feat Prescient Planner. This one's great for chaotic adventurers like us. Basically, once after each shopping trip, we can pull out a common adventuring item we definitely forgot to buy and say, oh yeah, I totally picked this up back in town. Rope, chalk, pickaxe, 10-foot pole. It was always in the bag, trust me. Our nature skill is going to hit master, keeping us sharp on wilderness knowledge and our nature-based healing. Our spell attack rules and spell DC are also going to go to expert, thanks to expert spellcaster from our patron, making us more accurate and harder to resist. We're also going to unlock 4th rank spells, and for this level, we're grabbing Swarming Wasp Stings and Soothing Spring. Swarming Wasp Stings unleashes a 10-foot burst of wasp stingers. Failed saves means poison damage, clumsy, and stage 2 wasp venom. If they swat the air like they're in a cartoon, it's perfect. Soothing Spring lets us conjure up a hot spring oasis in the middle of the woods. Up to 16 medium creatures can soak in it for an hour and recover 10d8 HP and remove fatigue. It's a spa day, sponsored by your weird frog witch. By level 7, we're the mushroom summoning, hot spring building, wasp swarming weird healer your party didn't know they needed. At level 8, we carve out a new class feat, Ceremonial Knife. During daily prep, you and your familiar can perform a little ritual over a blade, usually a dagger, enchanting it to work like a magic wand. You load it with any 1st rank spell your familiar knows, or, since we're grabbing this at level 8 instead of 6, we can start off with 2nd rank spells instead. Fancy. Then, it's time we finally cash in on that performance skill we picked forever ago. We snag Impressive Performance as our skill feat. Now, instead of diplomacy, we can wow people through sheer frog charisma. And maybe a little interpretive croaking. Perform for 10 minutes, you can sway 10 folks. Perform for an hour, 20 people. 2 hours, 50. That's right, full-blown, swamp-side, one frog shows incoming. At level 9, we lean into our comic forest frog persona. Performance jumps to expert, making us even more irresistible, or at least harder to ignore. Thanks to reflex experience from our patron, our reflex saves also bump up to expert, dodging danger like a slippery frog should. For our ancestry feat, we're going to go with Moisture Bath. Once per day, you can make a DC 10 flat check to shake off persistent fire and cold damage. Plus, you get resistance to fire and cold equal to half your level for 1 minute. I mean, sometimes you just gotta soak them frog legs. And let's not forget 5th rank spells. We're gonna pick up Desperate Repair and Magic Passage. Desperate Repair, you see a shield about to shatter? Not today. As a reaction, you can magically duct tape it together back with 1 hit point. Now, it's only once per shield, but still, super clutch. Magic Passage allows us to turn wood, plaster, or stone in a temporary 5-foot wide, 10-foot long tunnel for 1 hour. It's sneaky, it's thematic, and it's perfect for those amphibious jailbreaks. At 10th level, it's time for another round of attribute boosts. We're going to bump Dexterity, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma by 1. We're more agile, smarter, wiser, and charming. We also finally give in to our sticky fingers and train thievery. We're not full-on rogues, but if something needs borrowing, we're ready to try. For our class feat, our patron blesses us with a major lesson of renewal. This hands us 2 incredible spells. Restorative Moment, it lets us remove doom or drain from a friend, and lets them immediately roll saves against nasty conditions. Field of Life drops a 20-foot healing zone that heals allies and damages the undead for a full minute. Finally, we snag the skill feat Distracting Performance. Now when we perform, we can create diversions for the whole team. Enemies just can't stop watching us. It's like a magical halftime show, but with more existential dread. At 11th level, we get several big boosts. Crafting climbs to Master. Perception Expertise kicks in. We can spot danger better than ever. Weapon Expertise also arrives, meaning our simple weapons and unarmed strikes are now Expert too. Still hitting like a wet noodle though, but we're a very precise wet noodle. For our general feat, we double down on our improv survival skills with Prescient Consumable. Now, in addition to random gear, we can pull out a common consumable item equal to half our level or lower. Potions, scrolls, bombs, just don't ask where we're hiding them. And it's a huge spell upgrade too. 6 ranked spells unlocked. We choose Cursed Metamorphosis, a spell that lets us transform an enemy into a harmless animal. Worst case, nothing happens. Best case though, you can turn a major threat into, let's say, a croaking little frog forever. 1 bad save, and it's game over, ribbit time. Alright, let's take a second to breathe and look at where we're at. At this point, we fully embraced our role as one of the most helpful and weirdly dangerous party members you could ask for. We are a support powerhouse, patching up allies, fixing broken gear, tossing out battlefield control spells, and throwing down hexes that make enemies wish they stayed home. Healing isn't just about throwing out a heal anymore, because we're dropping Field of Life to create zones of healing, peeling off conditions with Restorative Moment, and even magically duct taping shields back together with Desperate Repair. If someone's hurting or struggling, we're the first ones there. And don't sleep on our offensive power either. We're not just healing, we're making enemies miserable. Spells like Croak Voice, Mycological Malady, and Curse Metamorphosis slam enemies with mental damage, pile on conditions, or just straight up turn them into, I don't know, frogs for potentially forever. It's beautiful, chaotic, very on brand. On top of that, our knack for being prepared has gotten a major glow up thanks to Prescient Planner and Prescient Consumable. If we need something weird, odds are we definitely bought it back in town. Rope? Got it. Poison? Sure. Bomb? Yep. It's basically magical hindsight. Performance is starting to become a big part of our vibe too. Not just flavor-wise, real mechanical benefit. With Distracting Performance, we're now stealing the show literally, giving our allies openings to move, attack, or escape, while the enemies are too busy watching our interpretive dance of swampy chaos. In the party, we're filling several important roles all at once. Primarily, we are a battlefield controller and support specialist, the one making sure enemies are easier to kill and friends stand upright. Secondarily, we're a solid healer when it matters, and honestly, we're also kind of the comic relief when the mood needs lifting, but in a way that actually helps the team. It's not just joking around. Honestly, it's fun. This character lets you be endlessly creative, You'll have clutch saves where you magically patch up a down tank shield. You'll have moments where you tunnel through a wall and skip a dungeon puzzle. You'll have these unforgettable scenes where you steal the enemy's dignity and turn them into a frog forever. At level 11, our Tripkee Witch is the heart of the team, a healer, a trickster, and the living proof that sometimes the weird little frog in the woods is the most powerful ally you could ever have. If your campaign ends around this level, you will have had a chance to fully taste the tonguey experience this build has to offer. However, the fun doesn't end here, as we're taking this all the way to level 20. At level 12, our patron rewards our devotion with Hex Focus. This means that when we use the refocus activity, we don't just recover one focus point anymore, we get to get all of them back at once. Hexes on demand all the time. On the skill side, we're going to take signature crafting. Now, whenever we craft a magical item, we roll a flat DC 9 check. On a success, the item gets a random magical quirk. Sometimes just funny, like mood coloration. Sometimes actually useful, like gaining a skill bonus or glowing like a glittering torch. If we critically succeed, we even get to pick the quirk ourselves. We're not just making magic anymore, we're making one-of-a-kind magic. At 13th level, even unconsciousness can't keep us down. Literally. We pick up the Ancestry feat Hop Up, letting us stand up immediately as a free action when we recover from unconsciousness, and we don't provoke reactions when we do so. It's pure frog energy. Our performance skills hit mastery proficiency now, meaning that when we put on a show, it's not just good, it's unforgettable. Whether we're inspiring the crowd or distracting enemies, we are the star of the battlefield. Defensively, we get a little less squishy. Our unarmored defense bumps up to expert. It's not a huge jump, and honestly, we're still not taking hits very well. Weapon specialization also kicks in for our simple and unarmed attacks, but again, we're whacking people with sticks and tongue slaps. If that's the case, something's gone very wrong. Luckily, we're much better with magic, and we grab a seriously nasty 7th rank spell, Pollen Pods. This spell lets us sprout 4 wooden bulbs that, when popped, release a 15-foot cloud of pollen. Enemies caught inside have to save or suffer nasty effects. If they fail badly, they take double 8d8 poison damage, get dazzled for a round, and suffer stupefied 2 for a full minute. It's basically weaponized allergy season. At 14th level, we finally unlock one of the most iconic witch abilities, the cackle. It's a free action, it's hilarious, and it lets us sustain a spell with just a burst of creepy magical laughter. It's efficient, it's powerful, and to be honest, it's just funny as hell to imagine our frog witch letting out random magical giggles in the middle of combat. On the skill side, we snag Master of Apprentice. Now, when we earn income through crafting, we can also automatically aid another crafter. We're teaching the next generation how to enchant frog-themed trinkets. It's the little things that make the legacy. 15th level is a massive power spike for us. First, attribute boosts. We're going to bump Constitution and Charisma fully by +1 each, while giving Intelligence and Wisdom partial boosts. Our spellcasting gets a huge upgrade too. Our spell attack rolls and spell DC jump up to master proficiency. Time to land those nasty hexes even more reliably. Our connection to nature becomes absolute, with nature skill hitting legendary proficiency. We are the wilds now. To really drive that home, for our general feat, we pick Ancestral Paragon, grabbing the Ancestry feat, Tripkee Lore. This means we gain legendary Tripkee Lore proficiency instantly, plus trained proficiency in both religion and medicine. No one, absolutely no one, knows more about Tripkees than we do. We've officially become the encyclopedia of all things weird and wonderful about our people. And, to cap it all off, we gain access to the absolute insanity that is the 8th rank spell All-in-One One Is All. This spell lets us merge the matter and life forces of us and up to 10 willing allies into a single big squishy blob, and then pop everyone back in place, reassigning everyone's position and redistributing hit points however we want, as long as no one drops below 1 or no one goes above their max. We can completely change the battlefield and save lives in a single moment. It's hilarious, it's powerful, it's peak frog chaos. At 15th level, our weird little Tripkee Witch has blossomed into an absolute chaos machine. Let's just take a moment to appreciate what we've become. Our strengths. We are now a master spellcaster with master spell attack and DC, meaning our hexes, debuffs, battlefield control are extremely reliable. Our nature skill is legendary, making us an oracle of the wilds, spotting natural hazards, sensing magical beasts, or charming the bark off a tree. That's just second nature to us. On top of that, our Tripkee lore is legendary too, giving us total embarrassingly mastery over our ancestry. No one outfrogs us. And while we still don't swing weapons well, see the earlier wet noodle commentary, our magic item crafting and focus pool efficiency are now top tier. We can make magic items faster, better, and with random magical quirks that makes every creation its own story. Our party role, man, we are a healer, a debuffer, and a support witch all rolled into one jittery, chittering little swamp gremlin. Need battlefield control? We've got hexes and debuffs for days. Need healing? We've got magical hot springs, restorative fields, and emergency health redistribution via all-in-one, one is all. Need utility? We've got consumables, magic passages, and a bag of trips big enough to make a magician jealous. Need someone to distract the entire enemy camp while the snow creeps in? Cue the distracting performance routine. At this point, we're not just useful, we've become essential in the weirdest and most delightful of ways. But we gotta talk about fun factor. You are a walking carnival of chaos. Random magical cackles mid-battle? Check. Crafting cursed mood ring swords? Check. Pulling a perfectly timed wasp swarm or fungal infection out of nowhere? Check. Melding the entire party into a magical blob and then rearranging the battlefield like a game of musical chairs? Double check. You're weird. You're wonderful. You're wildly effective. In short, this is a blast to play. But we're going to roll into level 16, and we're going to hit one of the biggest ease of use upgrades for any witch, effortless concentration. This feat lets us sustain a witch spell as a free action during our turn, meaning we barely even have to think about keeping our hexes and battlefield effects alive. It's just part of the rhythm now. Zap, sustain, repeat. We also finally zero in on our specific flavor of performance with the virtuistic performance skill feat, officially specializing in comedy. We're not just a funny frog anymore. We are the funniest frog you've ever met. We don't just crack jokes, we cause full-on battlefield stand-up routines mid-fight. Somewhere a bard is crying. And level 17 just turns the dial up absolutely ridiculous. First off, our crafting skill hits legendary. At this point, if we can dream it, we can build it. Magical baubles, cursed weaponry, intricate troll-proof bridges, you name it, we can craft it. We're a one-frog renaissance fair. Meanwhile, our tongue antics escalate yet again. Thanks to our new ancestry feat, Tongue Tether, we can now disarm, grab a ledge, reposition, or trip enemies up to 10 feet away with our tongue. That isn't what peak witchcraft looks like. I don't know what is. Our will saves get a huge bump too, advancing to master proficiency thanks to Will of the Pupil. Mental domination, curses, mind-altering horrors. Not today, Satan! And for spells, oh boy, we are unlocking some heavy hitters. Nature's Enmity is a 9th level primal apocalypse. We weaponize the land itself against up to 5 enemies inside of a 500-foot burst. They get slowed by vegetation, attacked randomly by crazed critters, and their primal spells fizzle like bad fireworks. Basically, if they're not scared of frogs, they're about to be scared of the trees. Trim the Blight does get a special asterisk here because it's tied to very specific lore, often tied to a certain adventure path. It's a laser-focused spell meant to cleanse supernatural blight, turning hazardous terrain into a safe ground and blasting blight-infused creatures with massive spirit damage and debilitating conditions. Since our deity wages war against blight in the forest, it fits perfectly for our theme, but if you're not playing in a campaign where blight is a thing, feel free to swap this one out for another spell. Regardless, at this point, we're no longer just part of nature, we command it, armed with magic, comedy, and an uncomfortably powerful tongue. At level 18, our patron has decided we fight enemies juicy enough to be worth snacking on. We pick up Patron's Claim. Once per hour, we can unleash a truly horrifying moment. Our familiar mouths stretches wide enough, and a grasping limb from our patron literally reaches out to grab a creature within 30 feet. This deals a nasty 10d10 spirit damage with a basic fort save against our spell DC. If they fail, they're drained to 2, or drained 4 on a crit fail. We regain a focus point for delivering a fresh soul stack to our patron. It's gruesome, it's beautiful, it's efficient, and if that wasn't enough, we finally get to fully live out the prophecy. We pick up the craft anything skill feat. That's right. All those little annoying restrictions about needing formulas, specific spells, and possible requirements, gone. If we have gold, we can build it. Magical armor, bizarre cursed artifacts, impractical siege weapons, enchanted spoons, you name it. Honestly, we make Bob the Builder look like an apprentice with the hammer. Level 19 hits, and we are, without question, a world-famous comedian at this point. Our performance skill reaches legendary status, and we double down on it with a legendary performer general feat. Everyone knows our name. Everyone wants to buy us drinks. Entire towns have been healed by our comedy. Oh, and we get paid a lot more for it now. Turns out, being a meme and an icon at the same time is lucrative. But it's not just our jokes that are legendary. Our magic is too. We finally upgrade to legendary spellcaster status, bumping our spell attack rolls and spell DCs up to absurd levels. Good luck saving against our magic anymore, because you're gonna need it. And because our patron loves us almost as much as the endearing fans do, they grant us access to our first 10th rank spell. We choose Manifestation, an absolute powerhouse that lets us duplicate any 9th level spell or lower from our own tradition, or even a 7th level spell from any other tradition. It's almost no limit to the ridiculous amount of things that we can pull off now. We are literally shaping reality like silly putty. At the end of this chaotic, hilarious, magical journey, we reach level 20. We hand out our final attribute boosts, +1 to Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma, just topping off our already absurd stats. We also ascend to true witch greatness by picking up Hex Master. Gone are the days of only casting a single hex per turn. Now, we can rapid fire our hexes like a magical Gatling gun. Even better, when we cackle, it now sustains every active hex we have running automatically. The battlefield trembles at our unstoppable laughter. And for a final bit of strange but fitting flair, we officially become a legendary professional. That's right, our Tripkee lore now earns income at legendary rates. Somehow, our encyclopedic knowledge of Tripkees makes us rich. Frog trivia has never been more profitable. Oh, and as a final cherry on top of this Sunday of madness, we finally get trained proficiency in athletics. So now we can technically climb a tree or wrestle someone if we absolutely must. Spoiler, probably still going to use our tongue for it. Final thoughts. Well, here we are. From humble beginnings as a mosquito-blessed frog, trying to make people laugh, we've evolved into a full-blown magical phenomenon. First and foremost, our role in the party is crystal clear. We are a support powerhouse. We sustain spells effortlessly, stack debilitating hexes on enemies while laughing hysterically. We heal and reposition allies in ways that completely reset the battle, and we can warp nature itself to protect our friends. We keep the battlefield chaotic for enemies and comfortably ridiculous for our allies. Our strengths are off the charts. Unmatched battlefield sustain, unmatched battlefield control with hexes, sustained spells, and powerful aura effects. We have near immortal focus pool management between hex focus, patron's claim, cackle shenanigans. We can basically never run out of magic. Top tier crafting and income generation. Anything the party needs, we can make it. No questions asked. Nature itself bows to us with legendary nature and primal magic. We know every plant, every frog, every bug, and how to weaponize them. Insane charisma and comedy. No social encounter is safe from our frog-sized ego, and legendary jokes. Durability through creativity. Even though we aren't a frontliner, we can heal, reposition, and debilitate enemies so effectively that we kind of feel tanky. The fun factor, through the roof. This build is an absolute blast at the table. You'll be cracking jokes, cackling like a mad frog, crafting impossible magic items between adventures, and completely flipping battlefields upside down when things get tense. You're as much of a chaotic force of nature as the beloved party mascot. At the end of this absurd, riveting journey, we've become something far greater than a simple Tripkee Witch. We are a master craftsman who can build anything from magically infused spatulas to portable tunnel systems. We're a stand-up comic who is so legendary that even the trees stop rustling just to hear our punchlines. We are a chaos gremlin with a cackle that bends reality and a tongue that can yeet enemies off of cliffs. We are a loyal servant for our patron, armed with frog-fueled fury and an arsenal of ridiculous reality warping spells. We've healed forests, we've warped battlefields, we've turned enemies into frogs. We didn't just survive, we thrived. We dazzled. We absolutely stole the show. In the end, we didn't just build a character, we built a legend. A legend that was born from a single spark of inspiration to a towering flame of hilarity, heroism, and hexes. I just want to thank you for coming on this wild adventure with me. If you've laughed, learned, or found a new favorite character idea today, smash that like button like it owes you gold. Alright, if you have thoughts, questions, or your own legendary build ideas, drop them in the comments. I'm going to read all of them. And if you're ready for even more chaotic creativity, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss a new build. This is Nicholas, the virtual GM, signing off.